The night falls. A mysterious creature glides through the darkness. He is pale and feeds on the blood of humans. This is the vampire. Meanwhile, the full moon bathes the night in a pale light. A howl breaks the silence. A large wolf stalks the night. As the moon sets and the sun rises, the wolf becomes a man. Say hello to the werewolf. In this video, we will be discussing the vampire and werewolf in media and their impact on the horror genre. As we look at these creatures, we see images of dark castles, gothic manors, and homes of these dark creatures. Pure predators of the night, these creatures embody passion and violence. We hear the word vampires and we see images of men and women in black and silky clothes, stalking dark alleyways, and these very gothic manors and castles. However, these creatures of darkness have one of the oldest backstories, stemming from the ancient Hebrew texts to the writings of Bram Stoker. In ancient antiquity, Lilith was the first vampire and wife of Adam, and was, according to some Hebrew texts, was a creature banished from Eden. And as the children of Adam began to spread out, Lilith fed on the blood of these children. This is part of a long story of the vampire. Vampires have been part of a collectiveness for centuries. But they really entered the popular culture in the 1890s with the publication of Dracula by Bram Stoker. Many of the tropes we see in vampire media are tropes first established in this novel. The novel gave a new image of the vampire. Long gone was the demon of antiquity. Now it was replaced by a suave and sexual creature that opposed the social restraints of the Victorian era. As I discussed in my first video in this series, this would lead to many adaptations, including the 1930 film starring Bela Lugosi. The vampire will go on to inspire other books and series such as True Blood, the Twilight series, and comics such as Blade and Morbius, soon to be a major motion picture from Marvel. They would also be the inspiration for pen and paper role-playing games such as Vampire the Masquerade. These creatures represent a dark reflection of the need to be young and powerful. Vampires are purely driven by their desire for human blood. And this is depicted in many interpretations of the creatures. What does it say about our society where we almost glamorize these dark creatures? Dark creatures that truly are dangerous for our collective society. Now we look to the werewolf. Werewolves appear and spread throughout history, all the way through ancient Greece, and even the Germanic and Slavic cultures have tales of these dangerous creatures, as well as many Native American legends of similar creatures such as the Wendigo and the Skinwalker. While some depictions were based on tribal cultures encountered by Romans and others, many address a primal element of our culture and our connection with nature. The werewolf is a creature of pure violence, the beast that inspired its name. The werewolf is often used in various media, often to terrorize rural communities. And there are many films and television depictions of these creatures, from movies starring Lon Chaney Jr. to Jack Nicholson. These two types of monsters are primal and ancient. While the vampire is more of an urban creature, the werewolf is often a creature of the dark side of nature. Because there are many things in nature we don't understand, and the darkness in the woods is something we always fear. The werewolf and the vampire often are depicted as rivals in many media. It is unclear where this pop culture rivalry started. If you want my honest opinion, I believe it started with some of the old Universal movies, such as the movies where Dracula fought the Wolfman and so on and so forth. These would also be explored more in films such as Van Helsing and The Monster Squad, among other such depictions. But what is it about the vampire and the werewolf that truly inspires and terrifies us? And often intrigues us in the case of the vampire? Is it the fact that these are creatures that do not adhere to social norms? We in our society obviously do not believe in the drinking of blood. So what does it say about a creature we are so fascinated with that does this very action? Or bestial characters that hide in the forests outside of our cities and towns? And what about the tropes associated with these creatures? Vampires have tropes such as they cannot enter a home without being invited, or that the cross repels the vampire. Meanwhile, the only thing that can hurt a werewolf is a silver bullet. Many of the beliefs about werewolves that we believe are actually more based out of the popular culture than based off of actual mythology. The werewolf was considered a creature that could be killed, but it was just hard to do so. And in those periods, there was no such thing as silver bullets. The vampire is even more interesting in the fact that it is completely inspired by popular culture and tropes that are associated with said vampire, such as the inability to cross running water, repelled by garlic, and as I said, repelled by crosses. These creatures, purely of power, seduction, violence, and nature-based chaos. What is it that drives us to be fascinated by them? That's a question we always must look at when we watch these creatures in film and television. Do we fear what we don't know? Is that truly the question about these creatures? While this may be a short video, I do appreciate your time watching. Join us next time as we will be discussing the masters of horror, such as John Carpenter, George Romero, and others. And in the next couple of episodes, as we finish out this series, we will discuss the elevated new wave horror of the current period, as well as the more experimental phase of the horror coming out of New Hollywood. Once again, thank you for joining me today. Please be safe out there and stay scared.